theme song for the year podcast. How you going, mate? Uncle Leon.
Bloody lovely. Mate, I think people are going to be disappointed with that one because they're looking forward to Troy Yarlaban, as you've been dubbed in certain parts of the internet. So,
look, I'm not in a bad mood
change
or anything.
it up.
I'm just not feeling like doing that today. Sorry, everybody. If you have a problem with it, you can email me at my email address. Probably shouldn't say it just publicly.
Yeah, you don't want to get
follow me on
doxed.
Instagram at Troy Nababan. There you go. But how you going, mate? Uncle Leon, what's been happening? I haven't seen you in a couple of days, hey?
Mate, had a pretty good weekend. The West Coast Eagles absolutely
Don't get me started.
dominated the Fremantle Dockers in the Derby. 2 wins in a row.
Here's the thing, mate. You know me. You've known me for a long time. I'm as patriotic West Australian as it comes. I grew up a West Coast Eagles fan, but I'm Team Dockers now. And let me tell you, losing that game on Saturday night, I felt sick in my tummy like I've never felt sick before. I had 2 days of... I had a session on Sunday, so they lost Saturday night. I had a session on Sunday. I was driving to the studio just in silence. I was
no
like...
tunes.
It was 12 hours later. No tunes, can't listen to music, can't listen to podcasts because I don't want them to talk about the game that they lost because it's going to make me feel bad. I felt awful and I continue to feel awful. Hopefully they get a good win against the Bulldogs at home on Saturday night, which I'll be there for, obviously. But if they don't, mate, I'm just not going to know if I'm going to recover all year. So anyway, but that being said, West Coast, good win, 2 in a row. Pretty good effort. Harley Reid, pretty good.
Oh, he's a wonder kid. Elliot Yeo, back to 110% at all times.
Tim Kelly, the third banana.
The third banana, exactly. And, Jake the Snake, another big bag.
Yep. Made Campbell Brown's team of the week again. I just saw that. So,
what a lovely thing. I wonder what David King will have to say about it. But we're not here to talk about the footy, Troy. Now, Troy, we're not here to talk about the footy. We're here to talk about the Gear podcast. So, mate, you have had some fun with some things that have come through the toy library. For anyone unacquainted with what we like to call it, Troy's got a lot of gear. I've got a lot of gear. I borrow Troy's gear all the time. He borrows mine. We like to call it the toy library because there are a bunch of toys. And, why should Troy go and buy a Boogie Mark IV when I've already got one? It's like, mate, just come over, borrow it, use it for what you need.
Yeah. And to be fair, there's a lot more people than just us that are members of the toy library. There's about half a dozen people. Some people don't even know they're in the toy library, but they've got a membership.
But they're in the toy library. Exactly.
So
exactly.
Even my buddy Peter, who has a studio next to mine, he's in the toy library. And I know this because I saw you on the weekend and you just gave me back his big muff that you've had for probably 6 months and I forgot all about. And he forgot that he lent it to me. So
the toy library is kind of like a blood donor registry. You have to opt out.
Yep.
That's the way the toy, you may not know that you're in, but if you don't want to be in it, you're going to have to opt out. So having said that, a few cool things that crossed my desk over the last couple of weeks, Troy, that you've had a nice run with.
Yeah, well, they've just crossed my desk. Well, let's have a chat about, should we go off the top from most distortion to least distortion?
Let's start with most distortion because you had a bit of a run with this guy, the Synergy D-Rect.
I sure did, mate.
How'd you like it?
Yeah, I like it. Honest review because, it's, I think it is a very good sounding unit. I don't think it will replace my rectifier, my dual rectifier, personally.
It's not pink enough?
Not pink enough. It's interesting because it's based off a Rev C, correct?
Yes. I mean, I've got the entire spiel right here. So apparently based off a Rev C, which came out in 92. So the early revision circuit, which a lot of people compare more to the SLO style thing. Yeah.
So kind of interesting that they specifically did that because I think the ubiquitous dual rectifiers like the Rev F?
Rev F, Rev G.
Yeah, Rev F, Rev G. So I believe we've both had experiences with a Rev C, unconfirmed, but like the classic Umesh dual rectifier. And for those uninitiated, a friend of ours brought an old Recto into the country probably like close to 20 years ago now. And he sold it about 5 years ago when I didn't have the money to buy it off him. So, and this is, or maybe a little longer than 5 years ago, but we knew it was an early one. It sounded incredible, always sounded incredible. and sounded different to other dual rectifiers, and sort of have been led to believe it's probably around a Rev C. And again, it's disappeared. So I believe, with that being said, it kind of reminded me of that, even though it's hard to say it's been so long since I played it. It's but it felt good, man. I basically jammed on it for about maybe half an hour. So synergy into the Fryette 292 power amp into my 2x12 Marshall SV cabinet with a Warehouse Retro 30 in the top and a Vintage 30 in the bottom. So that's my chain at the moment. That's my I'm going to have fun playing guitar chain.
Yep.
I didn't run it through the cabinet room, so it hasn't run through 412s with mics and stuff. I've just been jamming on it. So I plugged it in, had a play, and I was like, man, this thing sounds amazing. Like, it felt great.
Did you gravitate more towards the orange or the red mode on it?
I was pretty much in red mode. I went to orange mode for a little bit, and it didn't really sort of grab me in the same way. I was just in the mood for gain. But so I was playing it, I was super into it, and I thought, well, you can see the pink rectifier over my shoulder there.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought, let's just chuck him on as well and have a little bit of a blast and see what it sounds like. And they were pretty different. And I probably liked my Recto more as well, is what I would say. So whether or not that's a slight on the unit, or it's just that I have a preference in that moment for the amp that nobody else apparently likes, because that's a 3-channel 2000s era one. But yeah, I think by comparison, my actual Recto had a bit more balls in it, a little bit more low mids, which I'm not usually a huge fan of. I do usually like a bit crisper of a tone, but it felt a bit bigger and a bit nicer. So, it's one of those things. Had I not done the direct AB, I would have been like, this thing's amazing. And honestly, it sounds like what you think a rectifier sounds like.
I think that's the whole point of the synergy stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's very obviously not the real amp.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the power amp section. You don't have anything. You don't have any of the interconnectivity in there, but it's very flexible, and, there's certain preamp circuits and designs that scale quite well to lots of situations. So apparently, and obviously this idea's been around for a while, like the Egnator stuff and then the Randall modular things that Bruce Egnator did. So it's been requested for a long time. I think one cool thing that this popped up in the comments for the demo video that I did, having the D-Rect module and then having the 2CP module in the same Syn 2 is sort of like the multi-channel boogie preamp that they never made.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
If you've already got a Syn 2, is kind of a cool setup on there, because you do have the super tight percussive 2CP thing, and then you got the slightly more aggro, bloated out, just crazy high gain Recto thing on there. I thought they did well. Obviously, the real amp, the presence control is really important, and this being just a preamp module, what they did with the presence control and the way it works, again, it kind of passes the smell test. If you tracked that on something where you wanted a rectifier, then it's going to sound pretty similar.
I found
in an AB with the power amp, maybe not the same.
Yeah, I found the presence knob was, I don't know if it works the same way as it does on the Recto, because I know or maybe this is just a thing of the 3-channel. So I haven't actually checked this out, but in it probably isn't. I'm probably getting a few things mixed up, but because obviously in the 3-channel you've got vintage mode, modern mode, all those sort of things. And in modern mode, I know the presence control works like it's a low pass filter. So when it's all the way down, it's turn all the high end off on the amp, and then as you roll it up, it reduces the amount of filtering. So I don't know if that's the same on this module, or if that's how the presence control actually worked on the Rev C amps. What I found though was the presence was actually very useful. You could sort of put it anywhere and it sounded okay. Whereas in that one, you have to have it reasonably low unless you want Fizztown, and Fizztown's also kind of cool. It's not a terrible sound. It's just it doesn't work for everything. So yeah, man.
My question is, with your Recto, what's the ratio of running it boosted to unboosted? Because I think a lot of people are on the boosted Recto train. Yeah. But there's loads of good sounds just plugging straight into it, right?
Yeah, when I was playing it yesterday, because my Rectos, I've had a few hit and miss moments with it. It got retubed last year and everything, because I blew up a preamp tube, and then I got the whole thing retubed. And he actually made a comment too that it was very like biased, very cold for some reason. So whether or not that means that previous experiences, because I've had that amp for maybe 5 or 6 years and I've used it, but it's like never really blown me away. So now that I've had it serviced and it's actually sounding really great, I've been really enjoying it unboosted. Because I think for the heavier stuff, like boosting, well, I have used it boosted and it sounds awesome. But you don't really need to boost it for everything. It's like I wouldn't say it's a specific tone, but it's a specific genre maybe where it's like the prerequisite of it. Like I found unboosted the other day through this 212 cab, I didn't feel like the bass was blowing me away in the like, oh my God, this is like too sludgy and unusable. Really though, it's that thing of just keep the fucking bass knob low. If you keep it low enough, it's not really a huge issue. And obviously,
it does change, like the character of it as well, unboosted. That sound has grown on me a lot, and you can hear it in a lot of like late 90s and early 2000s stuff, and more the like just straight up hard rock or punk stuff from that era where, you know, it's just a really particular texture.
Yeah.
And when you want your guitars to sound big, but not in a way like a bunch of Marshalls sound big, you know, you want them to sound big, but not necessarily loud, maybe is the way I'd put it, where it's just this like wall of, you know, stuff. And a lot of the stuff I've heard you record sort of in that, you know, maybe just like straight up rock or a bit punk rock with your Recto, it's got a really specific thing that I think I'm like, oh, that's how you get that sound.
Yeah, it was the sound of that whole era, you know, so...
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it can be a very undynamic amp, in particular in that, like, red channel. I'm talking about my one, not the Synergy module, but that sound is like... Yeah, that wall of sound, anybody can play it. It doesn't really matter if you're a good, like, you know, not that you need to be a good player to play a Marshall, but like we were discussing it before, like to control an amp like that, or knowing that you can control an amp and with the way that you play it, it's like, it's a very interactive sort of thing where like Recto just plug in and just play and you'll sound fine. You know, you can play into it really hard or really quiet and, you know, it doesn't really matter if you're digging in extra hard to get more gain out of it. It's just always going to sound. So
yeah, you kind of always have that amount of gain. It's with a Marshall, obviously, the articulation and dynamics is going to change things quite a lot. They are dynamic amps. I feel like with a Recto, what changes, you sort of just have the same amount of splat and gain, no matter how you play it. But the thing that changes, and probably why people like to boost them, is when you really go hard and you're sort of like chugging, right?
Yeah.
That's where the difference comes in. If you just sort of play like, you know, like if you strum on it, you get a very different character and feel to the gain than if you're going chug, chug, chug.
Yeah.
And often, I think that's why people like to boost them is like, when you do that, that's when the low end can blow out a little bit. So you throw a boost in, tighten stuff up, and it does more of the, you know, the modern chug-a-chug thing that people really like. Yeah. But that's like the other 90% of what the amp does is the amp character, I guess.
Yeah. And so I didn't try boosting the Syn at all. I just kind of played it as it was. And it again,
it's pretty cool boosted.
I feel like I sounded less enthused when we first started talking about it. It is really good. It's just like compared to what the other one, like directly, it was just different. And I probably like went, oh, well, because I've got the Recto, I probably don't need to buy this module. But just playing it was awesome. And so what did you boost it with? Like, I don't know if I actually watched your video, or maybe just watched a little bit of it. Like, what did you boost it with?
I actually forget what I ended up using in the video. I'm really enjoying that Past Effects BLD. So it's a TC Electronics booster line driver, not the integrated preamp. It doesn't quite cut as much low end as like a Tube Screamer or something like that. But I really it's basically, it turns a JCM 800 into like late 80s thrash. That's sort of what that pedal is perfect for. I think Anthrax used them for a while. And it's quite cool with a Recto where you're not massively changing the character of the amp, but it's almost like having active pickups or something like that instead of having passives.
About it,
Yeah, that's one way to think about it. It's pretty cool. So I really like that. And there are, I've been getting lots of, who is it, Hermanson amps. You know, they seem to be building. I don't know if you've seen the clips. They're really cool. I think he's modded some amps for like Misha Mansour and Frederick Thordendal, and there's a lot of clips he's got up on his channel of like, hey, here's my rebuilt Recto, and they sound like boosted Rectos. But that's also kind of not what a Recto is, I think some people could argue. So yeah, it sounds a bit more like a 5150 layered with a Recto or something. So it's an interesting thing. It's sort of like modding Marshalls, you know. You can go too far.
Yeah.
You know, it's a Marshall's like purposefully not a 5150. So yeah, you can add more gain stages and you can do fun stuff to it, but you know,
you need to
want a Marshall, buy a Marshall.
Well, yeah,
if you want that 5150 thing, buy a 5150.
I think you know, it's really cool having unique modded stuff. Like my Marshall, like we talk about Jason like probably every episode, but it's really cool to have something unique. But yeah, something like a Mesa, I think if you don't like that sound, yeah, buy a different. It's when you get to that stage of high gain, they're all different, but they're not like life-changingly different. If you like that, or you like a 5150 or a JVM, or I don't know, like pick any other high gain amp.
I think the thing would be if you had two Rectos, you know, you'd always want to have one stock to do the stock thing because it's such an identifiable sound. It's like having an unmodded JCM 800 or an unmodded Plexi.
Yep.
But then if you've got another one, then you probably want, maybe you want a similar character, but you just want to be able to plug and play and not have to deal with all the quirks. So yeah, like the Hermanson clips, they sound amazing. Like they really, really sound cool. It's that thing where it's like, yeah, okay, cool. This is using that dual rec sound as a platform and then taking it somewhere else,
right?
Which I think is very, very cool. You know,
cool.
Absolutely no diss on it, but it's just one of those amps where it's got like such an identifiable character that once you start modding it, it's no longer the amp.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like, hey, how cool would it be to have a Strat with two high output humbuckers in it? Well, it's not a Strat anymore. You know, or hey, you know, you take a Les Paul and what if you put a Floyd Rose on it? It's not really a Les Paul anymore.
Yep.
Which, hey, those mods are totally valid and fine and nothing against them. But I think of the stock rectifier sound as it's a benchmark tone in the world of high gain. And
the best mod you can do is put a boost pedal in front of it.
Yeah. Oh, the best mod you can do is, you know, just like try a different cabinet or move the mic around a little bit if you've got too much or too little of something.
Man,
so
still, you know, the only thing I really think this studio needs, it doesn't actually need anything, but I gotta shell out for an oversized cab eventually, an oversized Recto cab. I just wish they weren't so fucking expensive, man. Like even secondhand, I can't get one for less than $1,000, and I don't want to spend $1,000 on one. I mean, when you see what they go for used in the US, where people are flipping them, and you're just like, oh, how much are they going for over there?
Well, I actually don't know. Shall we look, Troy? Shall we do some?
Well, because it's just
do some investigation.
It's all over there, man. Like far out. You Americans don't know how easy you got it.
The list price for a standard straight cab is $1,500 US. So
it's about 2.5 Australian. But man, like,
2.5 Australian. But
Mesa cabs.
That's once you've got it here.
Yeah, I'm not going to go buy one. I'm not going to bring one in. But crikey,
here we go. I'm just looking on Reverb. So yeah, look, once you convert the prices, about $1,500 Australian dollars, which.
But the thing is,
maybe that's just the price, right?
I reckon if you wanted to buy a secondhand Recto cab over there, like right now, you'd probably find one. Whereas over here, one pops up maybe once a year.
And that's the thing, right? It's availability.
Yeah, and in Perth as well. Like, geez, good luck.
Yeah,
but
good luck, mate.
But just to finish up on the Recto module. I think I had probably more of a moment with the 2C Plus one. I think I liked that. I don't know if I liked it more. It's a different sort of sound, but I think they... I don't know how to say. I don't know. Maybe because that's a bit more of a rare amp to find. It's maybe more of a useful thing at least in my system, because I could probably find another Recto pretty cheap, but I don't know if I can find another Mark Series one reasonably cheap. So
You want to have a chuckle? There's a dual rectifier Revision D for sale on Reverb in Australia for $12,800.
oh my god! So what's that? About $8,000 US. So just cop that, everybody. I love Torin, because
I mean, no one's paying that, are they?
No,
realistically.
Just Torin and I sometimes, like, I send him amps or he sends me amps and stuff. It's like, just appreciate that, about how lucky you fucking got it over there. Like, I'd love to have a Rev D, but crikey, or like that Rev C that Umesh sold. Like, I think he sold it for $2,000, $2,500. So what does that cost now? Like, that would be, if someone knew what they were buying or what they were selling, you'd be looking at a cool like $6,000. Hey, Leon, do you want to?
Shall we have a look?
Can I tell you?
Let's see if there's one on Reverb while you tell me this story.
Yeah, well, this will just make you laugh. This will make everybody laugh. I saw it's still up on Facebook as of like today. So I don't know if I can find the ad easily, but if I can, I'll read it to you. It's a Marshall. Are you familiar with Marshalls?
Yes, I'm aware of the brand Marshall amplification, Troy.
Are you familiar with JCM 800s?
Oh, yeah, the JCM 800's a pretty good amp from what people tell me.
So what would you pay for a 1989 JCM 800?
Now, would this be one with the famed undesirable horizontal inputs?
You know what? It actually looked like it was a 4-holer, weirdly enough, but it said it was 89 in the ad. But anyway, look, I can't actually find the ad anymore. Maybe it's been taken down. But let me ask you, would you pay 6,000 Australian dollars for that?
Oh boy,
$6,000 for a JCM 800? Are you kidding me? Like, that? In what universe is that reasonable? Like, these amps shouldn't be that expensive. Like, yeah. I mean, maybe what it's people like us talking about it that drives them up.
One, are they actually selling for that much though?
Yeah.
Or is this just someone going, well, yeah, I saw that a 1979 one goes for this much, so I'm just going to list it and some dummy will pay that.
It's just weird. Like, people say on these ads sometimes, like, oh, rare 1989 whatever JCM 800 or something. It's like, fucking hell, man. It's not that rare. It's old, but even then, like, it's not that old. This stuff was mass produced.
Now, what has caught my eye this week, Troy? Someone in Joondalup is selling a JCM 600 combo.
Oh, yeah, I think I saw that.
For $475.
That's
and
cool.
They are widely renowned as being maybe the worst tube amp Marshall ever made. So I'm really curious. I kind of want to grab it just to do a video with.
I'm pretty sure Johnny C had one a long, long time ago, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But
like, I just kind of want to know how bad it is. But at the same time, I could probably just spend that money on things that are more
meth
relevant to my life. I mean, you could spend that much on pseudo and end up on the police watch list.
What's the deal with the 600? Is that I don't know that much about it. I remember at the time they seemed like, at the time I was talking 20 years ago, I saw one and was like, oh wow, it's a Marshall, that it's a JCM and it looks more affordable. Maybe I could buy one of those one day. Yeah.
So for anyone unfamiliar, I'm going to do the old screen share on here and we can take a look at a JCM 600 if I can actually find the website. They kind of have the same layout as the early valve states. So the control panel, like, it really doesn't look like a Marshall, basically. But, here we go. Let's look. Really, we're a high budget podcast here, so I'm just going to share the Google search that I've got going on over here. But you get an idea of, JCM 600. Let's open this in a new tab, shall we?
Yep, I get you.
Oh, look at that high quality, massive image.
Yeah, you got to get on
really going hard.
I hope you're checking this out on YouTube, everybody. We appreciate if you listen on a podcast app, but the real fun happens on YouTube when you can see our beautiful faces and Leon's Google search.
And the photo bucket quality going on here.
100 pixels wide. Yeah, go on.
I don't think anyone really likes these things. There was from what I've read, a lot of issues with the actual manufacturing. They had a JTM 60 at the same time, so that was
I think I've seen that come up too.
I think I've got a Marshall catalog from that era, and I remember seeing like, man, I've never seen these amps around. What's the deal? So yeah, the JTM 60 looks more like they were going for the vintage vibe
I'm
over
sure
there.
I saw one 12 months ago come up for sale.
Yep.
Can you?
So anyway,
can you get Cliff?
People complain about.
Can you get Cliff to go on in the Axe FX?
Come on, Cliff. I don't want to pay 475 Australian dollars for a combo. That's the thing is, like, if it was the head for that much, I would 100% do it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a combo and it's going to take up space, and then what am I going to do? I'm going to sell it immediately. So,
Yep.
what's the point? I can die wondering with that one. Something I can't die wondering about, Troy, is your thoughts on the new Tone X1, because that came out of the blue and seems pretty handy to your use case, right?
Yeah, pretty good.
Is that something you want to...
Do you want to give yourself a little pat on the back for that segue, mate? That was pretty good.
Getting there, Kingy. Yeah, let's take a look at... I'm going to accept all cookies because I'm
accept them, mate.
Savage
Just
like
take
that.
it.
So for anyone unfamiliar...
And this got leaked a week before, right? It's by somebody.
Oi, IK Multimedia, I do not want to join your newsletter. Go away. They've asked me once. Anyway, yeah, a couple of weeks ago or something like that. So, and as usual, some music store no one's ever heard of accidentally put the ad up. So it looks like it can do all the things that the original Tone X pedal can do, but there's one foot switch and one knob. It's kind of cool. Like, I
very
do
cool.
like how Spartan it is.
Yeah, so it's the size of a mini pedal. Big knob in the middle, foot switch, and then 3 little knobs. Did you watch any demo videos or any product rundowns of it, or should I talk about it?
I saw Pete Thorne's video with it.
Yeah.
Sounded smashing because Pete's amazing.
Yeah,
there were quite a few videos that came out, and
Nielsen did one as well, which is really good.
Yeah. I've been waiting to do that one. But, everyone used the phrase game changer in their videos. So
everyone
that
uses...
feels like IK were like, hey, please say game changer.
Can you,
Here's your marketing spiel.
You should put game changer in front of every video that you do for the next 3 weeks just for fun.
Well, I feel like
when you
it's
do
just
those
implied.
Q&As, a game changer Q&A.
Game changer Q&A. This is the game changer
podcast
for me, Troy.
This is the game changer podcast.
Yeah.
So this
Paddy
thing,
Cripps, he's the real game changer. Harley Reid, a true game changer.
A couple of things
anyway.
on this, right? So that I really appreciate. Number one, has a tuner built into it, so that's fantastic.
Yep.
And for those of you that, I'm sure you've seen it, and you can see it on the screen now. If not, go check a picture, check out a picture of it. But the 3 knobs at the top are actually like LEDs as well, so they light up. Obviously they light up if they're LEDs, but the one in the middle turns green when you're out of tune. Oh, sorry, when you're in tune, and then orange either side. So that's really quite clever. I really like that. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, where's the headphone out? Apparently, the main output there is a headphone output as well. So that's
interesting.
That's fantastic. I think there's a couple of cool things about it, whereby it can be an always-on pedal, so the foot switch can A/B switch between 2 different amps, which is really clever. Does the Boss IR2 do that as well?
I believe it does. Yeah, 2 channels.
So that's I'm glad you can do that with some of these pedals, because having just your JCM 800 in there might be cool, but to maybe have a higher low gain version of that is really clever. At first, there was I think it might have been Pete Thorne's video. He sort of said you got to do everything with the editor, which you sort of do, but there are bits of it where you can still change your presets from the pedal itself, so you don't have to have a computer connected at all times to cycle through stuff. Although apparently that is, you can't really tell what preset you're on because it doesn't really give you any indication.
Look, IK's kind of workflow, let's put it that way, I think is pretty bad, especially the app is, man, and they updated it recently and made it worse. So I don't know how they managed to do this, but that was kind of my main criticism of the Tone X pedal, is that, the app's so cumbersome to use. Yeah. But having said that, what is this, 179 US dollars?
I would say, what's that going to be, $300 Australian?
Yeah.
That's awesome. For how powerful it is, I think you put 20 or 24 amps or something in there, or IRs. You can use it in a bypass mode as well. So if you wanted to load it in a pedal,
you could use it as a drive pedal.
Pedal, and then bypass it, so it could just become part of your pedal board. So it's actually very utilitarian, depending on how you want to run your rig. I really like it. And so I was doing some mixing before we jumped on, and I was pretty unhappy with some guitar sounds I recorded. Thankfully, I always have a DI. So what plugin do I load up but the Tonex plugin to give me some amp sounds? And it sounded awesome. Like
it's fantastic.
I think they are fantastic in terms of tones. The pedal I haven't played, but the sounds, at least from the plugin, are fantastic. So like I don't know why that would be any different from the pedal. Mike, this is one where, because of its size, like if I was to just give a glancing review of it, I said this about that Line 6 thing. It was like, fuck, I wish it had MIDI, which I'm a dumb idiot and I want MIDI on everything. And that would be great to be able to have such a small box that you could just like MIDI control to bring up a bunch of different presets.
And here's the thing, that to me looks like something you put on a pedal board with a switcher, or you put at the end of your pedal board as your, normally I use an amp, but I got to go DI.
Yep.
Being like, they've done everything right about it, but not being able to remote switch it, I think is a bit dumb.
Yeah, it's the only disappointing thing, because like even if you were to put it in, I was trying to think like if you had a like a loop switcher thing. So because like even that Fender thing, right? You know, the new Fender RJM loop redo thing. Like that's really cool. But yeah, the fact that you can't like A/B switch remotely through that or through MIDI, like there's like not really any way of doing that. I guess unless you were to just have an amp per pedal, which they're so cheap that you could do, like you could have multiple of them in loops to turn them on and off. So that's not the end of the world,
like the Tonex modeling sounds fantastic when it works. And if you wanted to use this as a way to, I guess the rationale with this is, okay, let's say you're normally someone who, you've got your Marshall JCM 800 and you've got a few pedals and you just run them into the front of it. You capture your amp, and your favorite settings, you bump them into this, you put this at the end of your pedal board and send that to front of house, and there's your DI, or for the times when you want your tone that you always use without having to take your actual amp. That's an awesome solution to it.
Yeah.
If you're someone coming from it at the like, I'm going to build a little direct board and I'm going to use a switcher and I'm going to use this for my amp tones, well, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah. But it's one of those things, man. Like I think for its size, it's still so powerful. So I'm going to just like, I don't know how these things are designed, so I can't.
But also just get the regular Tonex pedal if that's what you want to do, because it has MIDI.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, once you get to the point of like, well, I'm going to have to buy 3 of these pedals to do all the amp switches in my loop thing. It's like, we'll just buy the Tonex pedal. So it's kind of like, I get it. And maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe it isn't a case of, like, looking at the pedal, I don't know how you'd fit another fucking thing on there to like plug into. So maybe that's the case. But yeah, I will buy one of these. There's been a lot of these little pedal things that's come out that I've been like, yeah, I'm definitely going to buy one. Yeah, and I haven't done it. This one, I think, probably ticks just about every box for me for what is useful. Because it actually really got me, like after I read that, I was like, man, I've got the Tonex plugin and I had intended to model or like capture a bunch of my amps. And I just never got. It's like, it's on the list. It's on the like never-ending to-do list.
Yeah.
But to be able to take my amps with me to certain gigs would be really useful. And I think it's probably, for $300, very, very valuable to do that. So man, I'm super into it. And like, man, there's even stuff on there like you've got like simple EQ controls, but the fact it's got compression and reverb and a noise gate, and that's all controllable via the pedal. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I
mean, and they've done well. I mean, there's the open source neural amp modeler, right? Mm-hmm. So how long until Mua and Nuix just cram that into a mini pedal like this, Yep. So they've kind of, I can see why maybe they have just not rushed, but they've been good to just kind of get to the point where they're like, hey, you want captures? We got it for you. And it's affordable and it's in a mini format. They've kind of, I guess, safeguarded for them their capture and profiling tech. Because I think a lot of this stuff, right, the perspective, people do comparisons between, okay, I'll profile the same amp with Kempo, Quad Cortex, Tonex, and the open source neural amp modeler. And, this one measures 5% more accurately or something like that. this is, to me, the sort of technology where it's not going to be what is best that gets used the most. It's going to be what is available and what is going to be affordable.
Yep.
So there's a company called, I'll bring it up actually, called Dimehead Electronics, and they are coming out with a NAM player. And it looks pretty good.
A what player?
So neural amp modeler.
Sorry, yeah.
Which is open, so NAM, which, lots of people have done. It's the most accurate machine learning capture tech out there, and it's very, very good. Let me bring this out. So this is kind of cool to see. Basically, using the open source code and popping it into a pedal. Let me bring it up so that the people who are watching on YouTube and who subscribe to the YouTube channel can bring it up. So this is just on Facebook. So you're able to load in your open source NAM files, and they've got a really active community. Lots of people sharing stuff for free, which is kind of cool. And yeah, popping it into a box, quad-core DSP, you'll be able to load up like thousands of different NAM profiles in there. For anyone who is unfamiliar with that, basically you reamp a DI, and then there's a few different ways you can do the training on your computer like Tonex, or you can upload it to like a Google Workspace cloud server to do it.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And it gives you controls that Tonex doesn't. So you can have it do a super light thing, or you can train it for like thousands of different cycles in there and really get the response to be accurate.
That's cool.
So yeah, they've come out with this. I think the list price is going to be about 500 euros or something like that. So again, awesome unit, but no effects built into it. It's literally just going to do captures in there. So they've come out with something like this before. I guess you've had like a quad Cortex Lite or something, because a lot of people like the QC for the captures, but it's got effects, it's got a looper, it's got, you'll be able to run at some point there are plugins in there. It's a USB audio interface. There's the Kemper player as well, which has the effects. It's got all the Kemper stuff in it, but you just put it on your pedal board. So it's interesting seeing how this will develop and how many people will go for these sort of like NAM players in a box, or you've got the bespoke Tonex things. IK can obviously really go aggressive on the pricing, which they have here. And again, I think something like this is, we were joking before about the game-changing thing, but it really does make high-quality capturing super accessible. You don't need a Kemper toaster. You don't need the big Tonex pedal. You don't need some, MacGyvered together thing to play neural amp modeler. You don't need a quad cortex. You can have the capturing, $180. Yeah, the features are a little bit limited, but hey, reverb and compression and 2 sounds.
Oh man,
go
they're
and make
limited,
some music
but
and shut up.
They're not that limited. Like some of that stuff's still incredible. Like it's us being real picky to say, oh, we want more switching,
right.
And like, yeah, those are valid comments, but that's
how many people gig with a deluxe reverb and 4 pedals.
Yeah.
You can do that with this.
That's
it's
the thing,
totally fine.
If you're just the person that sets up like the deluxe reverb or your Princeton or whatever, and you've got no amp switching and you've got no effects loop, it's just like put this on the end of your board and then plug into the PA and you're fine. Or put your headphones on, like, and jam at night when the kids go to bed. Like that's really, really cool. So yeah, man, I'm super into it. I'm definitely gonna pick one of these up. Do you want to talk about the last thing?
Well, Troy, what a fantastic segue into yet more direct solutions that kind of take what we like about amps and just turn it into something that's very, very accessible and easy to get to.
As I show you something that has come across literally my desk, here it is.
Hey, there you go.
Then this is, there you go. Friedman, what is it called? IRD.
Big time. So yeah, I did a demo video with this one, which will have been out for a few days by the time this video comes out.
Yep.
And, we caught up on the weekend and you cooked a pretty amazing brisket. And I was like, hey, take this for a week and tell me what you think about it. So Troy, tell us all what you think about it.
It's very great. It's excellent.
Did it do the thing that it's more tondy than the IRX, if you know what I mean, tone wise?
I don't know about that. I like both of them actually.
Right.
Because I always use, I always start with like BE style stuff if I ever use modelers and plugins and stuff. So I'm probably now realizing in my slightly advancing age that I don't need a lot of distortion on everything, even though that's still in my heart and soul. And because of a lot of the gigs I do, I can't get away with having like high gain stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that being said, the extreme ends of the IRX of the BE stuff is not that necessary for like the music that I need to play for other people versus the music I play for myself. And this one is probably slightly more appropriate. But yeah, that like, so it's for just to talk about it really quick. The IRD and the IRX are effectively the same thing. It's just that this one is more of a Dirty Shirley, 2-channel Dirty Shirley. The other one is like a BE sort of thing, right? So you've got high gain
clean
channel, low gain
and
channel.
dirty.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is two identical channels. Is that right? 2 identical channels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I gigged with, I think I said it the other day, like I gigged with the IRX a few weeks ago for just this little quick, I had to play one song straight into the PA. It sounded so good. Like I couldn't believe it. The thing is with the first time I tried the IRX, I plugged it into that little orange pedal baby into a cabinet and I didn't really love it that much. And then I ran it into the, studio monitors sounded way better. I think I said this. When I did a demo session with it, using it for someone, g'day cat.
We're going to get some fuzz on here.
Yeah. Some guy guitars for a demo and it sounded unreal and the guitar player flipped out. And so like with this guy, I don't know, it's like, it took me a minute with the IRX to get the sound and to sort of understand what it did and how to get it to sound the way I wanted it to sound. It wasn't like an instantaneous thing of like, oh, plug it in, it's the best thing you've ever heard. But now that I've got this guy, like tried this guy out, having gone through that with the IRX, it was just like,
you get how they're meant to work.
Yeah. And it's just probably the only thing that's confusing is that you literally gave me the box, but there's no, well, I didn't look for documentation, but presumably because it hasn't been released as of this recording, I haven't had a chance to go and like look at what the switches do. So it's got a switch here that says B1 on the top channel, B2 on the bottom channel. And then,
so you have 2 bright switches and then a 3-way structure switch, which is like a gain. Okay. Yeah. So which to me sounds like the lower gain one sounds a bit more like JTM, Bassman, and the other 2 are sort of like Plexi, JCM 800-y, just basically 3 different flavors. Like there's more gain available, but also the overall like character changes a little bit, which is cool.
Yeah.
So
I probably...
So you can set one clean, one dirty.
Yeah. It's kind of how I was trying it. Like, I think the... whatever the top switch is, the higher gain one sounded really great. I was probably a bit more into that for just general playing rock and roll music. The cleaner mode I found probably more useful than the cleaner sounds in the IRX, I think.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Sort of thing. That's how I felt.
Yeah, I feel like it was still okay. Like, don't get me wrong, the IRX sounded fine, but like for some of the like the songs that I demo when I'm trying to play something clean, it just had maybe a little bit more spank to it or something. It was really cool. They're excellent, man. Like I'm gonna gig with one of them probably this weekend for the Dockers game. I'll probably take the IRX because I'm building a little board at the moment, which that one is currently because you've already put some Velcro on there, so he's on the board.
Exactly.
I think I haven't plugged this into the computer yet, so I don't know what IRs are in there. Did you load your LT?
Yeah, I think on number 1 or something. So that's probably there's that, and there's the stock ones are very good as well. I like that as well. You can set up each channel, maybe less gain and more gain, but then you can kick the boost in on each of them, so you have a slightly gainier clean and then a really over-the-top saturated thing. So, it's caveman proof, as we like to say around here. It's like if you know how to use an amp, you know how to use that. It just kind of works.
I think, the boost sounds great. And I've been playing with that a little bit just to... I feel like there's less saturation on this one than on the IRX with the boost. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah. To me, the IRX it can get super extreme high gain, super extreme clean, and this sort of lives more in like a, just, well, this is probably don't want your clean to be that clean live, and you probably don't want your dirty to be that dirty. So it does park it a little bit more conservatively, maybe.
Yeah. Man, there's something about this though. Like, I've had a AX8 for 6 years or something. No, longer. 7 years. 7 years. And gig with it a bunch, HX Stomp, gig with it a bunch. But there's like something about this and the IRX where like when I've gone direct with it, the articulation on single notes, I have like not got that sort of thing out of a digital one before.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is weird. Like, I don't know if that's imagined or I've dialed it in. Well, I just haven't dialed it in on the pedals right. Or maybe it has been there, but I've just noticed it more now because of whatever reason. So I can't really say it's just the other ones are shit. I wouldn't say that at all. But the fact that it's like, it happened with both of them when I was playing and just playing like arpeggiated lines, being like, man, you hit the high notes and just the clarity and the ringing out is like really nice and comfortable to play, and it makes you want to keep playing. So
it's cool as well if you wanted to build a board around with that and use drives, because it's an analog front end as well. You can smack it as hard as you like with boosts and distortions and things like that. You don't have to worry about like overloading the input or something like that.
Yeah,
that's part of the fun.
Yeah, I'm going to try playing it through a couple of power amps as well, just to hear what that sounds like, and also through a
nice.
An FRFR sort of setup outside of just a studio, like studio monitors and a front of house speaker, because I'm kind of curious on that. But yeah, man, like they said, they both sound really good. The board that I have in my brain is like really. I'm trying to work through some problems of what I want to build out of a pedal board at the moment. And it's kind of weird. I don't know if I've got enough time today to discuss it with you, but I think that now with this Tonex 1 thing as well, it sort of ticks another space in my brain of what could be useful. Because I basically I love nerding out and fucking around. So 1 tick, these all are okay. I love spending money on things that I don't need, but the hobby.
Don't we all?
Even though, as we all know, I can do my job with very little. So anyway, I'm trying to like work out how I can get a few things incorporated into a pedal board that's like small. I bought a little rock board 3.1, which is what I want to fit everything into. But having versatility so that I can use one of these pedals if I need to go direct. I can use the board in front of an amp if I want to do that. And there's a few little problems I'm trying to work through with how to set effects units up, like just delay and reverb stuff in loops and whatnot. So anyway, it's maybe a story for another time. But but these things, man, like the products that we've spoken about today, or that have just come out or whatever, I'm like, man, it really gets you thinking, you know?
I mean, if you had a Tonex 1 and an Eventide H90, it'd set you back almost exactly the same amount of money as an FM3, and it could maybe be 1/10 as flexible and powerful. So,
just buy an FM3.
What a great selection. Yeah, exactly. I did have that. I was like, oh, you just put that on a board with the H90 and you could have 2 different amp sounds and 2 effects at the same time. And then I was like, oh yeah, hang on. Like, you can have like 4 different amps in an FM3 in a single FM3 preset, and then all the extra effects. So yeah, there's also that element of it as well. But you got to want to, and also know how to program those things and make them as flexible. I can totally understand the appeal of, that's my amp sound and these are my individual pedals. Like, modularity is awesome, and multi-effects are awesome as well. They definitely appeal to different ways of thinking about how you put together a guitar sound.
I think the only downside to the FM3 is the size of it compared to these other guys. Like, all the flexibility is incredible, but he's a tall boy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's got some chunk. It's got some chunk about it.
That's not a problem. Like, you can work around, like the sound of it is incredible. Like, if you can't make it work, then you need to watch more Leon Todd videos, because he'll show you how to do it.
Yeah, right.
But I love that stuff too. It's and it's all good, man. This is the thing. Like, this is why I'm having dilemmas, because I don't need any of this shit. But what am I going to do? Like, a gamble or something? I could just go put money on at the TAB or I could invest it wisely into guitar gear and like spend my life obsessing about that instead of checking the horse races. So
it's funny, you know how Sportsbet have their ad in a hyper masculine, come and bet on horses and footy, and then now they have to have the mandated warning at the end. Have you noticed that they have coded that so that it sounds less masculine on the warning? It's sort of like what are you actually gambling with?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, someone consulted them on that and were like, mate, if you want to tap into blokes, bloody talk like this and get a real tube amp, your dogs, and then you'll actually be playing guitar.
Yep.
And then, maybe you want to get a digital modeler. Yeah.
So anyway, mate.
Gig responsibly.
Which
I think is funny. But there's definitely that element as well of, actually, this is funny. Did the hen a couple of weeks ago, and right at the end, we were just doing the thing we do and kind of looping and jamming, and this dude just walked past with his family and stopped and looked and went, "Oh, FM3, nice." Just kind of walked off. Like that was the extent of the interaction. It's the only time anyone has noticed my rig at that gig, except for like the token John Petrucci fans who notice that I'm playing a 7-string with a piezo, which I'm like, it's stupid and ridiculous, but
he didn't say, but don't you recognize me? I'm Leon Todd.
I'm Leon Todd from the Gear Podcast.
How many subscribers have you got? You must be pretty close now, mate. Almost at the 6 figures.
The magic 100K. Mate, if I had $1 a year per subscriber, we wouldn't be doing this, would we?
Yeah, so get on that, everybody.
Actually, probably still would be. Less than 500 to go at the time of doing this podcast. So,
well, mate, we'll let it go. Let's just, lest we forget, etc. That sounded really disrespectful. Don't mean to do that. Collingwood Essendon is on in an hour and 19 minutes, so hopefully win for the Bombers because we hate Collingwood here. And generally hate Victorian teams, but especially hate Collingwood. Really hate Carlton. Really hate the Bulldogs.
And Essendon have that bright cap thing going on now with the Essendon Edge. That's it. I've gone too far. That's way too much of a niche reference. There's like 6 people on earth who will understand that reference. Shout out to all of them. Thank you to everybody who continues to listen and watch the Gear Podcast. If you like what we're doing, go and tell somebody about it. Tell your mates, get them listening, and submit some questions and ideas for future episodes. And we'll see you all in the next one.
Peace.